Hello everyone, welcome to Dundas Dashboard How-To videos. This video will show you how you can create a virtual cube from an OLAP data source, which you will need in order to create performance dashboards or analytical dashboards using your OLAP data. A virtual cube represents a subset of a physical cube from an OLAP data source, such as Microsoft SQL Server Analysis Services. You define a virtual cube by selecting the elements from the source cube that you're interested in and building analytical reports based on those elements. Once you have the virtual cube, you can create an OLAP-based KPI or a dataset to use in your performance dashboard, or go straight into designing analytical dashboards. Before creating your virtual cube, make sure that your data connector to the OLAP data source has been set up. For example, here, my data connector is set up with the following cubes. Once your data connector has been created, you can begin defining your virtual cube. This involves selecting the cube elements such as measures, KPIs, dimensions, namesets, and defining reports to be included in your virtual cube definition. You can create a virtual cube from the home page by selecting Create a Virtual Data Structure under Performance Dashboard and choosing the Virtual Cube option. Or under Analytical Dashboard and selecting Create a Virtual Cube. You can also create it from the source cube in the data connector by clicking on its menu button and choosing Create a Virtual Cube. This option will bypass the virtual cube setup wizard that you're going to see in this video and is ideal in situations where you simply want to have a virtual cube that mirrors your physical cube and where all cube elements are included by default. For this example, I will demonstrate how to create the virtual cube from the Design Explorer using the Virtual Cubes folder. So once you're in the Design Explorer, go to the Virtual Cubes folder and click its menu button and choose New Virtual Cube. Give it a name and press enter. Once you do this, the new virtual cube appears as an item in the Design Explorer and the Virtual Cube Setup wizard is displayed. Select the OLAP data connector you want to connect to and click Next. In this step, select the source cube from the connector and click Finish. Once you do this, the Virtual Cube Designer is displayed in the content area. Configure the general settings by giving it a description and any additional info URL that may provide further information about the cube. Note that here you can see the data connector that the source cube is located in, as well as which base cube this virtual cube is connected to. In the Definition tab, select the elements from the source cube that you want to use to build the analytical dashboards or OLAP-based KPIs or datasets. Use the tree view on the left to select the cube elements that you want. You can also click the buttons in the toolbar above the tree view to select or deselect all the elements in the tree view. Note that if the top level measures folder is selected and new measures are subsequently added to the source cube, then the new measures will be automatically included in your virtual cube definition the next time you edit the virtual cube. If you want to avoid this, then deselect the top level measures folder and explicitly select the measure groups and measures that you want to include in your virtual cube definition. The tree view lets you select the elements such as dimensions and name sets. However, it doesn't let you navigate deeper than that in order to choose specific dimension members. If you want to choose specific members, then enter a manual subcube MDX query that returns the desired cell set of data from your source cube. This is useful for restricting the virtual cube to just the subset of data that you're interested in. Keep in mind that a subcube MDX query, if you specify it, is always applied first, followed by your selections in the tree view. In your subcube MDX query, you have the option of embedding query parameters, which you can later connect to dashboard parameters and parameter controls during the dashboard design stage. The SSAS actions are operations that users perform on an SSAS cube or portion of a cube. The actions are defined on the SSAS side and appear here. These actions can be enabled for use in an analytical dashboard. The Calculations tab is used to define one or more calculated members which are based on the measures from your source cube or existing calculated members. Once defined, a calculated member appears in the cube tree, that is in the tree view, when you go to build a report, and can be used just like existing measures from the source cube. Note that to define a calculated member for a virtual cube, your SSAS instance must support and have enabled default properties such as caption and associated measure groups. Use the Date Mapping tab to define one or more date mappings which map dimension hierarchies from your source cube to a date format that is similar to Dundas dashboard time dimensions. Date mappings are necessary if you want to use calendar-style parameter controls on a performance dashboard to filter OLAP-based KPIs or datasets, or if you want to use calendar controls in a report and analytical dashboard. For more information on how to create a calculated member and to set date mapping, refer to the support articles shown in the references section of this video. So once you are ready with the cube setup, click on Save and check in. This would make sure that your newly created virtual cube would be shared with the other Dundas dashboard users. So as you can see, we have successfully created a new virtual cube. Once you have this virtual cube, you can then create an OLAP-based KPI or dataset and use it in a performance dashboard, or go straight to designing analytical dashboards. For analytical dashboards, you can create separate analytical reports from this virtual cube using the report designer and display them on the analytical dashboard. So for example, when you create your KPI or a dataset from this virtual cube, then all the measures and dimensions that you've selected will be available for selection as measures and dimensions within your KPI and your dataset. Here I'll show you an example on how to create an analytical report. To do this, first check out the cube, and here we have selected all the measures and dimensions. To create the report, go to the menu of your virtual cube and click on New Report. Give it a name, and once you do that, the report designer is shown with all the measures and dimensions that you selected from your virtual cube. To create the report, just drag the measures and the dimensions, and you have your report ready to be used in the analytical dashboard. Now as you can see, I have selected all the measures and dimensions from the cube. In the next example, I'm going to limit the measures and dimensions and select only a few of them. To do this, go back to your virtual cube, and in the Definitions tab, select only the measures and dimensions that you need. Now when you go back to your report, you can see that only the measures and dimensions that you selected are visible. And you can use only these to create your reports. Limiting the measures and dimensions such as this to only those that you actually need in the cube will significantly improve the query performance from the cube, and thereby having a significant improvement in the performance in your analytical dashboard. So if your cube is large or highly complex, then I would highly recommend that you decide on only selected measures and dimensions that you actually need, and only choose those from the virtual cube. Now if you observe, I have limited the number of dimensions that I can use, but it's still showing me all the member values of that dimension. For example, in the source currency, I can see all the currencies listed. Now what if I want to see only Canadian dollar? That's where my manual subcube MDX query comes into play. So in my next example, I'm going to limit the result to show only the results for Canadian dollar. To do this, go back to your virtual cube, and here select Enable Manual Subcube Query. And in the query text editor, enter the MDX that will return only the desired result that you need to create your reports. So for example, here I have written a query that returns only the results for Canadian dollars. So once I save it and go back to my report, you can see that the report has changed to return only the values for Canadian dollars, and all the other currencies are no longer listed and are hidden. In this next example, I'm going to show you how a calculated member is used. So for example, I have a calculated member defined in my cube that's called total sales amount, that returns the total of the internet sales amount and the reseller sales amount. So once I have it defined, I save it, and the definition tab of the cube, you can see that my calculated measure is one of the measures available for selection. Once I select it in the cube and save it, and go back to my report, you can see now that the calculated measure is available for selection in the measure section of my tree view of the report. So to use it, just drag it in the measure section, and once I do that, the calculated measure appears on the report. To know more about this report designer, watch the video on analytical reports or go through the support article on our support site on the analytical reports. For more information on how to set up and create a virtual cube, including how to create calculated members as well as setting up of date mapping, refer to the support articles shown on your screen. If you have any questions, feel free to visit our support site at support.dundas.com or contact Dundas Support using the contact information shown on your screen. Thank you for watching.